Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm going live on all the platforms tonight. All the platforms. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope that you are having a wonderful week and trying to get some rest this upcoming weekend. Like I said, I am live on both Facebook and Insta. So on Instagram. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. And make sure that uh you let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any questions as we get started. I am going to go ahead and get started, and I know that people will. Cool, cool, cool. Thank you. And I'm sure that people will be able to tune in whenever they can. But my name is Melanie Preston, uh, also known as the Relationship Architect, and I work with women and couples for a living, helping them to redesign and restructure the foundation of their relationships. Hey, Miss EEWB, Miss Erin. Gonna go ahead and get started because we are in this holiday season, and it seems that, you know, 2023, the holiday season has is up on us, and it did not play around. It seems that the year just started, and now we are already in the holiday season. And while for many of us this is a great and festive time of year, for some individuals it's not so great, right? There are some of us who it's not tis the season. It's not Merry Christmas. It's filled with emotions, and it's not filled necessarily with happy or joyous emotions. And so tonight, what I really wanted to come on and talk to you guys about was is the topic of holiday healing and moving forward after loss or divorce. Now, there are some people who, uh, they may have lost a loved one, and this isn't the first year. However, there are some people that 2023 is going to be different because this is the first year that you are moving forward, that you are experiencing the holidays without a loved one. And it's also for some the very first holiday season that that's post divorce. And so those are the two things we're going to cover tonight. Hey Tammy, how you doing? So these are the two topics, or the two areas of transition that we're going to talk to tonight. And I know if you haven't, you'll probably also see that I'm going to also be talking over the next few days about a few other new holiday transitions, right? Whether you are a newlywed and this is your first holiday season as a newly married couple, or maybe this is your first holiday with a newborn, right? You've had the first grandbaby, and how are you going to navigate the holiday season with that? So, if you have not seen those, I know they are already posted on both Facebook and YouTube. But go ahead and set your reminders for those. Also, shameless plug before I get started. I don't know if you knew, but the other places that you can join and hang out with me is on a podcast that I co-host with my good girlfriend Melissa Moorhead Moore. In our second episode of Season 5 just dropped today. So if you have not checked out the Trashed It podcast, you should do that. You should do that. You should head to YouTube. You should hit that little subscribe, like, and share button. And you can also do the same thing on Apple, Spotify, where you hear most of your podcast. And if you are on Instagram, you can also hear me and my good girlfriend, Erin Elise, also known as Miss EEWB, on Sunday evenings for a fine wine. And this is where we rant and muse about the latest in love, life, and friendship after the big age of 40. So you can come on over and join on any of those platforms. But for tonight, let's get into this topic. So the first thing I really want to discuss is, let's just talk real quick about what grief is, right? Because we know that there are different types of grief. There is complicated grief. Complicated grief is when something very traumatic happens. It is death that is unexpected. It's horrible, it's sudden, it is not something anyone was prepared for. And then there's also just the normal grief of when someone passes away, whether it's they pass away of old age, they passed away due to an illness, maybe a terminal illness, right? And these are the types of loss that it's not necessarily complicated because we were in some ways aware. Now, does that take away the sting of death? No. Does it take away the sting of them no longer being in your life in the physical sense? No, it does not. So as we talk about grief, it's important for everyone to understand that everyone's grief journey is different, right? Everyone's grief journey is different, and that is okay. It is very universal. It is very multifaceted. There's no one size fits all when it comes to grief. People grieve differently. Some people grieve longer than others. Someone posed a question earlier as to, does it ever go away? Right? And I get that question all the time. Does the grief ever leave? After someone passes away, does the grief ever leave? And the truth of the matter is, I do not believe that grief ever necessarily leaves us. But what we hope is that over time, we're able to move forward in a way that we're able to cope, right? After someone we lose someone, there will always be that emptiness, right? That void. But over time, we hope that as we accept that they are no longer here, that we are able to move on in a healthy way. So when it comes to grief and the holidays, right? When we think of the holidays, we think of family and friends and get-togethers and mom or grandma's, cooking, or all of the family things. And so the holiday season is a very heightened time for individuals to possibly be triggered by grief, right? Even when you look at the stages of grief, right? There are between 5 and 7 stages. Okay, and so the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So those are the main 5 of the 7. And for anyone who has dealt with grief, you know that it's stages, right? It's a cycle. And just because you go through it one time doesn't mean that you won't wake up one day and you're back in another stage of grief. Okay. And so as we get into the holiday season, and also as we get into now, we are in what daylight savings time end it? Did it end? Did it start? I can't remember which one. But either way, it's darker earlier, right? So we're not getting as much sunlight. It's darker earlier. So all of these things can exacerbate our grief during the holiday season. So you may have a heightened sense of loss. You could have unexpected emotions, or you just wake up and there's this sense of emptiness, right? And that is not it is not uncommon. It's very much so not uncommon. Um, and so when it comes to the holidays, here are a few things, especially if this is your first holiday season after loss. First of all, please understand you have every right to feel the way you feel. Um, and that means you may not feel up to hanging out with everyone the way you normally would. And that's okay. But some of the ways that we can honor memories during the holiday season is sometimes we do that by maintaining traditions, right? That means, if there was something that your loved one used to do, or that was a tradition in your home, keep that tradition. Keep it. Maintain that tradition, especially if it brings a sense of closeness for you. Okay. Now, if maybe it's sharing a story. Hey, Sarinthia. Hey, let's see. Hey, y'all. So if we're talking about maintaining traditions, so maintain those traditions. It could be sharing one of their favorite stories. It could be sharing a favorite memory. It could be looking back at old photos. It could be thinking back to the last time you guys were together. So it's important that as you learn to move forward, that you find ways to honor their memory. So the next thing that is something that you can do if you are experiencing loss during the holiday season is create new memories, right? Sometimes it can be difficult to continue certain traditions because it's too painful, right? And it could be that it's just too painful right now. And if you find that maybe even you have family members and they are attempting in good faith to create a memory or bring a tradition that that was shared with a loved one, it's okay for you to also say, you know what, I'm not really up to doing that this year. Okay. It's okay to say that. And it is also okay to start creating new memories. Um, it is very much so encouraged that you start some new traditions, right? That you start traditions that help you kind of move forward with being able to not just honor the person who's no longer with you, but also moving forward in a new season, so to say. So it could be engaging in a new activity, finding something you like to do. Some people, they decide that instead of doing any of the traditions, they go on vacation. They do something that's completely different. And again, I repeat for the people in the back, however you grieve is how you grieve, and you do not owe anyone anything when it comes to this holiday season and your want or your or even if you don't want to necessarily be around so much family or friends. Okay. So, next thing, it is very important to stay in touch with your emotions. And what does that mean? That means even as the holidays are coming about, being able to have people in your tribe that you can share how you are feeling with, right? Being in touch with those emotions. If you're feeling sad, you need to be able to say, you know what, I'm not okay today. You need to be able to express that grief. If you find that you are happy one moment, but then you need to cry, that's okay. That's okay. It's important to lean into whatever those emotions are. Um, and like I just stated, make sure that you surround yourselves with a tribe, with people who can support you, who you can lean into and lean on. Okay. So that is uh important. If for whatever reason you find yourself in this particular situation, and let's just say you're saying, hey Mel, well, you know what, that's all fine, great, good, but I don't necessarily have a tribe. I don't have a readily available community. Okay, I get it, I hear you. Find a support group. Find one. I encourage you. If you know this is your situation, start looking now. Most every single community has grief groups. They have support groups, especially those that possibly get together during the during the holiday season. Okay, so again, if you do not have a support system during the holiday season and you are experiencing grief, seek community resources, find a support group, find a grief group within your community. Okay. Um, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Now, let me know if you guys have any questions regarding grief before we move on to divorce. Okay, so over on Facebook, um, is that where the seasonal affective disorder? So, okay, let me touch really quickly on seasonal affective disorder. So, seasonal affective disorder is really depression that's seasonal. Usually it starts fall and continues through end of winter, kind of beginning of spring. And so it also has to do with the fact that it gets darker sooner. So yes, seasonal affective disorder is a thing. And there are people that, because this at this time of year, it symbolizes when they've experienced grief. What you will sometimes see is that yearly during the fall, winter months, those individuals will have seasonal affective disorder, or better known as seasonal depression. Is another way of saying seasonal depression. So yes, that really is a thing, and sometimes it is exacerbated or brought on by seasons of loss, seasons of change, whether it's with loss of a loved one due to death, or even if it's, as we're about to talk about next, maybe it's post the breakup, post divorce, right? This is the time of year that you're used to being with your family. Okay. So, do we have any more questions about grief and loss we move before we move on? I'm waving at the folks over on Instagram. Okay, so the next one, for many of us, especially in my world as a relationship therapist, we are seeing a ton of divorces, and that's a loss, right? When you have spent your years, no matter how many, creating, maintaining, starting a family, starting a marriage, and then it ends, right? There is a sense of loss, especially if you have children, right? And so, how do you navigate divorce after? How do you navigate the holidays after divorce, especially if you're newly divorced or you're going through a divorce? So one and while every situation is different, I am going to give you um, just a few tidbits to really consider. But like I said, because divorce can be, it can be amicable, and that is what we always hope for. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Sometimes divorces are nasty, and you have partner against partner. You have partners who use children as bargaining chips. There are a lot of challenges that happen when it comes to divorce. So the things I'm going to list are by no means rigid and just cut and dry, because again, I say every situation, especially when it comes to divorce, is going to be different, right? And so you have to know how to navigate your according to your personal situation. Now, first things first, there is going to be, well, let me go back for a minute, right? Because I think a lot of times when we think about grief and loss, people tend to only think of that in terms of death or dying. And the reality is, anytime we experience loss on any level, there's a sense of grief, right? If it's the loss of a relationship, such as divorce, there's a sense of grief. If there is, even if you weren't married, right, but maybe it was a committed relationship and you thought it was going to be something long term, and all of a sudden it's not, there's a sense of sadness, there's a sense of loss, there's a sense of grief that comes along with that. When you experience infidelity in a relationship, there's a sense of grief, there's a sense of loss, because you have lost the perception of this union that you originally had, right? There is a loss of perception of this partner that you thought would never hurt you. So this perspective, this persona of your relationship, this persona of the person, the persona of the life you thought you would always have, it's gone, and it's shattered. There's grief to that. There's grief. There's loss. And so you have to be willing even in that, to allow yourself to grieve. A lot of times we replace grief with anger. And I would encourage you, if you are going through a divorce, if you are post divorce, if you are separated, any of these things, um, allow yourself a chance to grieve. Whatever the relationship status is, make sure that you give yourself a chance to grieve that. Um, as you are doing that, it is also very important that you embrace change, right? Um, at the end of the day, the routines, the traditions as you knew them, they no longer exist. And you have to give yourself a chance to sit with that. You have to give yourself a chance to sit with the fact that holidays as you knew them no longer exist. And then you get into creating your new holiday routines. Um, and that may take time. That may take time. I will encourage you to not plan to just sit alone at home. that is not the smartest thing to do, right? So even if you have just a few friends that you decide that you want to get together with, if you have family members, right, that you can get together with, please absolutely find a way to start creating new routines. Don't let yourself sit in the grief during this holiday season. Okay? So, dealing with the loneliness. Um Join some community events. Find places to go where you can be with people. So I run this back to, don't use the holiday season if you are post divorce, if you are separated, if you are still working through a divorce. Maybe it's even been a few years, but it's still, maybe it's contentious, or it you're still not settled about it. Don't allow the holiday season to cause you to crawl into this dark hole, this dark shell of a place where you are not getting out, you are not um, involving yourself with anyone. Okay. So even if this is going to family events that maybe you normally wouldn't go to, right? Or going to community events, maybe this is you choosing to volunteer. Sometimes helping others, as we grieve and as we heal, is one of the most powerful things you could ever do. Okay. So choose some of those things. Um, I know, we're already in the holiday season, but even if this means taking a trip somewhere, right? Take a vacation. Um, Not by yourself, hopefully, unless you are solid with where you are with the divorce. Okay. Um, Now, when it comes to co-parenting, ooh, co-parenting and family interactions, I go back to what I just said, okay? Because every divorce is different, right? There are all types of nuances when it comes to divorce and when it comes to co-parenting and family reactions, okay? So there are several scenarios here. Now, if by chance you have an amicable relationship with your ex, okay, then before we get into the holidays, and we're kind of already there, so even if you didn't work it out for Thanksgiving, definitely put this into practice for Christmas, and as a matter of fact, any holiday. Okay. But be sure that before the holiday season begins, if you are co-parenting, make sure that you have established in detail what the co-parenting schedule is going to be during the holidays, right? That may look like having a shared calendar. It may look like, even coming together. Some couples do, even though they're not together, they still come together for a few hours or so during the holiday season with the kids. But you have to really create what works for you, as far as co parenting goes. Also, look at establishing new traditions with your kids, right? So if your kids are per visitation, with you for part of the holiday, and maybe they are with your ex during the other half. Determine new traditions you want to start with your kids, okay? Because the traditions you used to have as a family, you don't have those, but it doesn't mean you can't have new ones. And it also doesn't mean that you're in competition with your ex either, right? Create what's going to work for you in your house. Even include your kids in on what these new traditions could be. Okay? So your kids can enjoy both homes. That is the point. Always, if you have kids and you are divorced or divorcing, please be sure that you keep your kids front and center with all of your decision making. Okay. Um, Try to get along with the ex-partner's new boo if they have one, right? Because again, you want to not create chaos for your kids. Okay. Now, how do you navigate those family dynamics? Um, so even when you're going through a divorce, right? And your kids are coming over, have a conversation with your family on topics and on topics that are off limits, right? Number one, we should not be talking about the ex while children are around during the holiday season. Okay? I don't care if you like them or not. You should not make a habit of talking negatively, talking poorly about your ex while your kids are around. You should make sure your family knows, your extended families, your cousins, cuz some people have these relatives that really don't know how to be quiet and always have something sideways to say. I would encourage you to nip that in the bud before the holiday season starts, because what you don't want is to put seeds of negative thoughts about your ex-partner into the hearing of your kids. It's not okay. I don't care who told you it was. It's not okay. It's never going to be okay. All right. So let's try to establish some rules there. Before your kids come over, make sure everyone knows where they stand and what conversations are off limits. Okay. Um, yeah. So find also, as it relates to divorce and post divorce, figure out start over with figuring out what brings you joy, because chances are, especially if you are divorced or on your way to divorce, you're separated, you're somewhere within this experience, chances are somewhere along the way you lost yourself at some point. Whether you lost yourself in career, you lost yourself in being a parent, you lost yourself in being a good roommate with your now ex, you lost yourself in the roles and responsibilities of just life and life as a husband or wife, right? Um I encourage you to take some time rediscovering who you are, rediscovering who you are post divorce, rediscovering who you are now that you are learning how to navigate this world as a single individual again, right? What hobbies do you have? What hobbies do you have? I talk to so many people who, if I ask them, well, what do you like to do? Aside from work and family, what do you like to do? Who are you? They have no clue, because they've spent so much time pouring and giving and going and doing and being responsible for everyone else. And while divorce is not something that we look to experience, it's not something that we sign up for when we said I do. If you are in this season, one of the things you can take away as the positive is the opportunity to start to rediscover yourself, right? And really figuring out what that looks like. Like, go back and think about the things you used to enjoy, things that you said to yourself, "Oh, you know what? I would love to do that, but yeah, no, I don't really have time," right? Well, what if now you do have time? What if now is the time? So start to really learn you. Take the time to relearn you. Um, Self-discovery is a beautiful, beautiful thing if you give yourself a chance to dive into it. Okay. Lastly, seek joy. Seek joy and positivity. Um, don't surround yourself with miserable people, right? Sometimes when people know we are going through a challenging time, the saying misery loves company. Don't find the miserable company this holiday season. Don't find the people who are a part of the woe is me and that want to sit around talking bad about exes, or that's just on the negative bandwagon. Find people, places, things, activities that feed your soul. Okay? Because as you are navigating this new terrain, there is the opportunity to reestablish who you are and learn more about who you are now as you grow into this new person. Okay? Now, are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All right. So, listen, if this was helpful for you, please share. Please share with others. If you weren't here to catch the beginning, please go back and catch the beginning. If you can't find it on Facebook or Instagram, you should definitely be able to find it on my YouTube channel. Um, Hey Jess, it will definitely be on the YouTube channel, and it may be on Facebook for a while. But make sure that you go back and you check it out. If you, like I said, if you find it helpful, definitely pass it along, share it with others. Um, yeah. And if you find that you have questions, even after you've watched it and even after we end tonight, drop those questions either in the comments or you can DM me, right? You can find me on Facebook at the official Mel Preston, and you can find me on Instagram at the official underscore Mel Preston, and the same on YouTube. So any of the three. Jess, did my question get answered about things to do? I don't think I saw your question. Can you type it in really quickly? Because I can't get on my Facebook page at the moment. But if you're not able to, and Jess, this is to you. If you're not able to type your question in now, I'll go back. What? Okay. What are some of the things to do during the holidays? Yes, 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 yes. So I did answer that question. So the topic is broke down from with grief first, so grief and loss first, and then we talked about divorce, post divorce. So yes, I'm pretty sure I answered that question. If after you, um, yeah, yeah, volunteering was one of the things we talked about. So yeah, if you have more questions after you've watched it, please don't hesitate to send those questions to me and I will be happy to answer those. All right, until next time, you guys have a great evening and I will talk to you soon. Bye.